The good thing is there are more and more shelters or rehoming organisations. The problem is not many people produce the statistics. We should be rehoming nothing because nothing should be coming in, right? I first came to Hong Kong when I was visiting a friend who I knew through sort of training to be a vet at university. We were at different universities, but we met, and she was working for the SPCA in Hong Kong. So I came out to visit her to go to a wedding. And then I started working here as a locum. And did a couple of months and then came back the following year to start permanently working. So that was way back in 1993. I think the interesting thing at the time, obviously coming from the UK, was the different culture, the different ambiance, and being able to make a big difference to animals in Hong Kong. Here there were very few vets in Hong Kong, maybe 35 to 50 in total. Of just a few practices. The SPCA at that stage was really filling a gap in supporting people, because at that stage Hong Kong had gone through a bit of an economic boom, and suddenly people were really interested to have pets, dogs and cats, and so they needed a lot of support. And when the animals got sick, unfortunately at that stage the number of vets hadn't quite matched the number of pets. And now if you look at the Veterinary Surgeons Board, the number of registered vets I think is over 1,000 that are registered to practice. That doesn't mean that they're all practicing currently in Hong Kong, because vets are in different areas. They may be in research, they may be working at the vet school, they may be working in government, but definitely there's a lot more vets available in Hong Kong. At a young age I was quite interested in animals. We had, as a small child, pet rabbits. I started horse riding, so I was interested in horses. I had cats, guinea pigs, mice, fish, and then progressed on to birds. If you own animals and you observe them, you come to understand their behaviour and their needs, and you can empathise with them. You can sort of pick up on their emotions, you can understand what they're feeling to some extent through the body language. And obviously the interest in animals was more of an area that pulled me into veterinary medicine rather than human medicine. But then also moving within the SPCA, giving some input into policy and advocacy work, trying to help Hong Kong develop a more sort of we call it animal-friendly policy, in terms of supporting, protecting their welfare through legislative development, but also through integrating animals into society. The animal cruelty legislation, although it was introduced in 1935, it still is a pretty good piece of legislation, but it does need updating. Generally, we like to cherry pick, so we can try to look at similar jurisdictions and sort of say, look, they have this model in Australia that's quite good, and we should think about it in Hong Kong, or they're developing this in the UK. So duty of care is pretty important, and I think the key thing is we have a Prevention of Cruelty to Animals ordinance. Some of the animal trading legislation, especially for things around dog breeding, is pretty in the forefront of global regulation. So we have some areas where we're very advanced and some areas where we really need to catch up on. But you have to have public opinion on your side to make those changes. So again, it's a lot about educating the public. And so that's where the SPCA focuses a lot of its resources on education, starting at early years, encouraging kids to understand animals, think about animals in a Hong Kong context, think about what they can do to help animals and to minimise harms that may happen in society. We don't want to penalise people, we don't want to be seizing animals and arresting people, we want to be guiding them or giving them structures so that they can do the right thing, so we don't end up with a cruelty prosecution. Currently in our legislation, if you're convicted of animal cruelty, you can't be banned from owning animals, so that's a key thing that's missing. And also, what we also want to do is to have a mechanism where we can release animals early from the cases. So sometimes when an animal is abused, it's considered evidence and it can't be rehomed until the end of the legal process unless certain other actions are taken. Cats are very popular on the internet. They're a lot easier to keep in a high-rise flat. In Hong Kong, in public housing, you can keep cats, but you can't keep dogs. So things are pushing people who want to own pets sort of towards cat ownership. That creates a demand in the market. What we're seeing an issue with, and less so now with dogs, I would say at the moment, it more seems to be a problematic area with cats, in that we do see a lot of pedigree cats abandoned on the streets. Generally British shorthairs or maybe Maine Coons, Norwegian forest cats, ragdolls, sort of the ones that are popular in society at the time. I would say it's animal cruelty. You are putting an animal in a situation where you're not providing it with adequate food and water, leaving them by the side of the road. Now, sometimes you can't predict everything, but really do your research about the animal you want to keep, whether you're going to be able to cope with that animal, and understand the lifespans. And then consider adoption, because there are a lot of unwanted animals that are in Hong Kong in the different shelters. I think the positive thing for me is that over the years, attitudes towards adoption have become more open and more positive.